With more people working from home, more people seem to be getting neck and back pain. And one of the main reasons we get told we have this pain is because we've got poor posture. So in today's video, I'm going to go through what the evidence tells us about posture and its relationship with pain, and whether it really deserves the negative press that it seems to receive. So what is posture? Well, posture is defined by our body's position when we're sitting or standing. And as a society, we've adopted the view that there is a stereotypically bad posture and a stereotypically good posture. If we were to exaggerate this, a bad posture would look something like this. So elevated, rounded shoulders, a forward flexed protruding neck, and we're probably flexed from the trunk slightly as well. Whereas a stereotypically good posture would look something like this. So we'll be tucking our chin in, contracting our abdominal muscles, pulling our shoulders back and pushing our chest out, sitting up nice and straight. So the narrative is that people with bad posture have a higher risk of developing neck and back pain than those that have stereotypically good posture. And this is a message that is consistently supported by healthcare professionals, social media, and the mainstream media too. And on this very platform, you'll be able to find a number of videos claiming to fix your posture with exercises or manipulation in order to improve your pain. So what does the evidence tell us? Well, currently the evidence is pretty clear in that poor posture is not associated with an increased risk of neck and back pain, and similarly, good posture is not associated with a decreased risk of neck and back pain. There have been a number of studies comparing the two groups, and the findings have shown that there are no differences in the amount of pain that these individuals experience. Further findings from the evidence in relation to posture suggest that there is no association between leg length discrepancy and back pain, no link between back pain and the amount of anterior or posterior pelvic tilt that we have, which is something that gets attributed to back pain an awful lot, and no link between neck pain and the amount of elevation or how rounded our shoulders are. One more thing that gets attributed to back pain a lot is either muscle length or tightness. And currently, the evidence can't support the notion that back pain is linked to either hamstring, iliopsoas, or abdominal length or tightness. So if the evidence suggests that none of that stuff matters, then why is back pain in particular the leading cause of disability in westernized countries? Well, like with many things in life, it's complicated. And for the rest of the video, we're going to go through a few suggestions based on the evidence as to why we might be getting these symptoms. Now, the first thing to take into account, and I think it is probably the most important, is that pain is complex. Contrary to societal beliefs, there is far more to pain than structure and damage. Now, essentially, pain is controlled by our brain and our nervous system. And although our nervous system reacts to physical factors, it also reacts to a lot of psychological and environmental factors as well. Psychological factors include things like stress, worry, fear, and that can be about your friends and family or yourself and your condition and what that might lead to. Fear of movement is a very common thing in people with neck and back pain. Anxiety, depression, and cultural beliefs will all impact your nervous system. And environmental factors like sleep hygiene, exercise, nutrition, work, finances, relationships, being sedentary, and even family bereavement will affect your nervous system. And that list is by no means exhaustive. Now, I'm filming this video at the back end of 2020, obviously the year that was COVID, which means that a lot of the psychosocial factors just mentioned were even more prevalent than normal. And even the most positive friend or family member can probably relate to these in some way. So they are important to take into account when considering pain. Now, bear with me with this one. Now, cavemen were around about 2.5 million years ago. And from a physiological point of view, they don't look dissimilar to how we look now. And their bodies had evolved over hundreds and hundreds of years to make sure that they were suited specifically to their needs. Now, it's fair to say that a daily routine probably would have involved a lot of physical activity. Things like running, walking, hunting, climbing, building, and catching things would have all been done consistently and repetitively. So we are still designed to do these very dynamic, complex movements under high levels of load repetitively. The thing that has changed is we are all more sedentary than we used to be, and we spend prolonged periods of the day being immobile and inactive. And if we want to maintain a healthy, pain-free life, we need to let our spines and our muscles do what they were designed to do in the first place, which is lift and carry and move and bend. In addition to being very strong and robust structures, our spine and our muscles are also exceptionally flexible and adaptable. So when you put them in a new situation, for example, poor posture, although it's easy to assume these muscles and tendons will be put under more stress, they will actually adapt and change to make you comfortable in the position that you're in. So what is normal? Now, if we're telling people that they've got bad posture and they need to try and improve their posture to be normal, then we really should have an idea of what normal actually looks like. Now, I've been a physio for a number of years now, and I can honestly say that I have never seen two people with exactly the same posture. The short answer is, there is no normal. We all have different anatomical abnormalities and irregularities, and none of us are completely symmetrical. Take Usain Bolt, for example. He was the world's fastest man for a prolonged period of time who broke multiple world records. And if you check him out on Google, you can see that actually he's got quite a significant spinal scoliosis, and that is a S-shaped curvature of the spine. With the notion that we need to be fairly close to normal to be pain-free or functioning properly, then Usain Bolt probably shouldn't have been running as fast as he was, and he should have probably had some fairly significant back pain. What this example shows us is that our bodies are amazingly adaptable and they will compensate for any irregularities that we might have. So with this in mind, we probably do need to think about what we're trying to achieve when we're aiming for the perfect posture. Similarly, with the narrative of good and bad posture, it's also an exceptionally commonly held belief that there is a correct and an incorrect way to lift things up off the floor. There are massive industries making millions of pounds and dollars every year with manual handling advice saying exactly that. So is this notion that bending and lifting is harmful and damaging for our backs actually the case? There have been studies done on this area to analyse the relationship between lumbar spine flexion, so the amount you bend, and lifting, and subsequent episodes of back pain. Now, Zadro et al. 2020, you can find a link in the description below, completed a meta-analysis on those papers looking at those relationships. And what they found was that bending over when lifting was not a risk factor for suffering a back pain episode, and they concluded that advising people or individuals to stop bending when lifting or carrying things was not supported by the current literature. Now, that's not to say that if you were to lift something that was too heavy for you or that you weren't used to, you wouldn't sustain an injury. In the same way that I wouldn't expect to go to the gym and lift a 15-kilo bicep curl because my arms aren't conditioned to do so. It's likely to be sore and painful. A more sensible approach would probably be to start off practicing that movement pattern with a light load and then gradually building it up over a period of time, therefore reducing your risk of injury and conditioning that movement pattern for the job that you want it to do. So it's not that bending or lifting is harmful or damaging for your back, it's just that for the majority of us, we haven't conditioned our backs to lift or bend with heavy loads. Well, the evidence suggests, and anecdotally as well, that if you think about posture consistently throughout the day, it can actually make things worse. And I would concur with the fact that we see more people in pain because they are thinking about posture. And I think there are a few reasons for this. So firstly, being told you need to guard your spine by contracting your core for prolonged periods so that you don't do any harm or damage just reinforces the fact that your spine is vulnerable and weak. And we know that this just simply is not the case. Secondly, thinking about posture throughout the day is likely to lead to hypervigilance. So you spend more time analysing and thinking about your injury and your back pain and why it's not getting better. And in turn, this actually makes things worse. Thirdly, engaging any muscle, including your core, for a prolonged period of time is really hard work. It's likely to lead to fatigue, and at some point it is probably going to get painful and uncomfortable. If I ask you to make a fist and clench it as hard as you can, firstly, you're going to struggle to bend it and move it. And secondly, after a while, although we know there's no damage or harm going on, it is going to become painful and uncomfortable. And it's no different with your core and your spine. And just lastly, the irony is that your abdominal muscles and your core muscles are designed to flex your spine. So if you're thinking about contracting your core during the day, you're actually bringing yourself into a stereotypically bad posture and out of a stereotypically good posture. If you'd like to know any more about posture and pain, then I've put a link in the description below to the Empowered Beyond Pain podcast, which I would strongly advocate listening to if you'd like to know any more on the topic. Now, I'd love to hear from you before you go, so drop me a comment and let me know of your thoughts on today's video. And until next time, I'll see you again very soon.